Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nic Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today, we're joined by Jonny Cummock. Jonny is a MD, PhD resident. He's done his, I'll let him give a little more detail about what he's gone to get there, but what I see is radiation oncology. So lots of great stuff, and he's doing a lot with AI. So, Jonny, great to have you on the Flex Forward podcast. Can you let our listeners know a little more about you and a little more about what you do in your day-to-day life and kind of how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I wasn't born in Houston, but grew up there since I was a little kid and spent most of my time in training there. Got my MD and PhD with Texas A&M, but did all my clinical training and research at Houston Methodist Hospital. Did my PhD in AI and neuroimaging and a lot of bioinformatics for cancers as well. And now I'm in the residency phase of my career journey. I could share a little bit about the journey. So, sure. A lot of this started back in undergrad. I did my undergrad at Brigham Young University. I did neuroscience, and MD PhDs are fairly uncommon. Usually, you get a medical degree if you want to take care of patients. You get a PhD if you want to do research. And it's pretty uncommon to find someone who's willing to go through the training to do both. The idea is that really you come out to be a physician scientist. It's someone that you can take care of patients and be able to research the clinical questions and the diseases, so that way you can make progress in terms of new medications, new disease understanding, new treatment availability. And I was very kind of fortunate early in my career through a church connection. I had a youth that was an MD, PhD in radiation oncology, and I didn't come from a family of doctors or anything like that. My parents were just salt of the earth type of folk, and always worked really hard to provide the opportunities for education that they didn't have for me and my brothers. But anyways, this youth leader had a lot. I remember when I was probably 15, he did his training at Baylor College of Medicine over in Houston, and he took us on a little tour and showed us the lab he did and some of just all across their medical school over there and just all the different things there. And that's kind of a lot of what started my interest in here.
A little tiny seed planted just got to what it.
Yeah, that was one thing. And there were a lot of different seeds along the path. Another one was my mother's an immigrant from Peru, and she never had any educational opportunity there. Just grew up real poor and essentially foster adopted from when she was a little girl. Okay. And for a lot of children of immigrants, the dream of the parents is that you're successful, you get an education. So the choices they kind of give you is like, do you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer?
Yeah.
So unsurprisingly, 3 out of my 4 brothers became doctors. And the last one, he's not a doctor, but he's doing very quite well for himself. So that was another one of those seeds that got planted. And just, again, as I was doing my undergraduate, this is something that just kind of came up. I started doing research and fell in love with it and still wanted to take care of patients, and found the opportunity to be able to study both those things at Texas A&M, which I'll always be very grateful for.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the MD, PhD program. Similar, I grew up in a blue-collar family, but went to graduate school at UTMB in Galveston, and my neighbor was an MD, PhD. This is in 92 to 93 to 96 when I was down there. So that's the first time I'd heard of it. But it's great you're doing AI too. I mean, AI is so, you just hear so much about it in all walks of life. And I know it's got to be in medicine, and that you're getting into something that's going to, help benefit your patients down the road. I think it's awesome to be able to harness that and use it in a positive way.
Absolutely. It's something that's been interesting because I started my doctorate studies before, nowadays everyone talks about ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and all these AI models that are really changing the way that everybody's doing everything. It's like the cell phone or the PC, what Mac, did originally. They wanted to put a PC in everyone's hands and the everyday consumer. Now everyone's got AI in their pocket. And it's amazing because I started my doctorate studies into this before this explosion of AI. And so I've been able to see, it's something that's been around for decades, but it's been very theoretical in terms of computer vision and neural networks. And it was just a lot of like computer science, brainiac type of stuff. But I've seen the transition where now even my mom has it on her phone, and she'll talk to it and ask it all sort of questions and recipes and different things. And it's just been transformative. So you can imagine in the domain of healthcare, where it's not just we're getting this type of AI to be able to read imaging scans, CTs, MRIs, we're getting it to read EKGs, and now it's being used in all sorts of different sensors and biofeedback devices, to even it's incorporated within the clinic in terms of ambient listening, where it hears the conversation, it synthesizes and know recommendations, and saving a lot on workflow and communication with patients. Is really quite incredible what the transition it's made, where it's just ubiquitous, even
just
in medicine
the last couple
now.
of years. That's my
Absolutely.
lab. I do a thing like an online function lab where it draws all the labs, and I send it to my doctor also, but I get this whole report from just AI looking at all the different labs that are up or down and giving me recommendations. So you're getting another viewpoint. It's just mind boggling on where it's going to go. And it's, I guess you could say Google was AI somewhat. I mean, you're pulling things together, but just, it seems like it's exponentially improved from what we were, when you're Googling something 3 or 4 years ago, now you put it in a chat or Claude and you get this whole even more robust report back. And just, even I'm in the real estate world now, but I'll take stuff that's in a PDF and say, I need this in Excel, and it'll convert it over to Excel. I mean, like in 30 seconds, it's got a very clean Excel sheet. Or, if something's off just a little bit, I can say, make these adjustments, and it, 10 seconds it's there. So it's amazing, and can't imagine what the world's going to be in a few years. And that's, it's something where I have my 20, 18-year-old and 14-year-old, like, girls, you got to think, how is AI, whatever you want to do, we're not going to discourage you, but just think, how is AI going to affect that? What is that job going to be there, or how you need to think about how AI is going to affect whatever your career path. One of my daughters wants to be a lawyer, and we're like, how is that going to affect what you want to do as a lawyer? 'Cause I think a lot of the contract lawyers are going to be, there's going to be fewer needs, just because you can, we do with our contracts, we plug it into a AI, just say, hey, give us a breakdown of this. We still use the lawyers, but it helps us. I mean, I still read very long, boring contracts, but the AI will say, here's a couple of concerning things, or here's some things you might want to change up. So, every
Absolutely.
industry is going to have something like that. Well, getting into med school, and especially MD, PhD program, I'm sure it's fairly competitive. What's something that helps set you apart from some others that may have been trying to do the same thing?
That's a great question, Nick. My program director, previous program director, Dr. Julian Leibowitz, I had a chat with him one time because I was considered getting in, like, my Willy Wonka golden ticket, right? This was my golden ticket, and there was no way I was going to miss this opportunity. And I talked to him, my previous program director, and I asked him, why did you guys accept me? What was going on in your mind? Right. And he told me something I found very interesting. It's kind of stuck with me. He said, when we interview people, we want to know, firstly, if you're smart, right? And he says, everybody, if you're here, you're smart.
Mm-hmm.
He said, number 2, it's a long path, and we want to know if you're going to be able to stick with it, right? Do you have the stick-to-itiveness to be able to commit to something, to stay on this path? I started my MD PhD training in May of 2016, and I graduated in May of 2026. It was a full circle 10-year journey. And so that takes a lot to be able to look into the future and say, hey, in 7, 8, 9, 10 years, am I still going to be happy with what I'm doing and be able to be just as committed to it as when I started? And the third thing really spoke to me. He called it miles traveled, right? And the concept of that being, look at where someone started, the resources that they were given, the context and situation of their life circumstances from where they started to get to this point now. That's the miles traveled on their journey. And I figured he thought I had a lot of miles traveled. In a lot of ways, I consider myself that I have traveled a lot. At this point, I'm 35 years old, but I'd like to think that I'm wealthy in life experiences. My journey to this point has been anything but a straight line. It's been a very meandering path. And I found a lot of the curiosities in life and a lot of the things that have brought me my greatest joys have been through those side detours and those little side quests, I sometimes call them, those life side quests that maybe it was unexpected, but it led you to do some adventure that you did not prepare for, that you did not plan, but you're glad you did in the end. So yeah, that's something that's kind of stuck with me, and that's been throughout the journey. I try to keep myself open to those opportunities of just doing those things that kind of make you stick out from the crowd. Going on for myself, getting to that point, I have, at this point, I've got 4 kids, right? I've lived in a number of different countries. I've traveled abroad, done a lot of humanitarian service projects. I've worked in just about every industry that you can. I'm no stranger to manual labor. Just before work, I was digging post holes out in my yard. So it's one of those things. I think that if you keep yourself open to opportunities and you're willing to take chances, to take risks, it makes you an interesting person, and people like to be around interesting people.
No, for sure. What a great story. Is there something that you found has comes easy for you that others may have found challenging?
That's a great question, Nick. I think a lot of it too, of what gets why I'm where I'm at today, is I don't know. I would say perseverance and grit. Right? There's I think anybody can do this kind of path. Anybody can make it, and I say make it to the big leagues. Right? Anybody can be successful as long as you stick with it and you don't quit and you keep learning. You can do anything, right? And you just gotta take it one day at a time, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year at a time. I certainly didn't see the full path when I started over 10 years ago, but I look at where I am today and I wouldn't trade it for the world, right? And it's just one of those things that I tell people I just didn't know how to quit.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I talk to my kids about that, I'm like, look, you can be whatever degree program you want, but some people may be able to study 15 minutes a day and get there, and some may need to study 15 hours a day, and it can be done. It's just, that's what I saw as an undergraduate. I'm like, you can be an engineer, or you can be a teacher. Nothing wrong with a teacher, but just different degree levels, or a doctor. But some people, if you may have to study more to do some, and some people are blessed to read something once and understand, or hear it in the class and they retain it, and others may need to sit down and repeat it for hours to get there. But if you want to put the time in, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve for the most part. I'm never going to dunk a basketball, no matter how many hours I plan on a 10-foot goal, but within reason, and education wise, you can achieve almost anything that you set your mind to.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there something that you have found in your journey, that helps you either on a personal level or physical level, that you could give us a tip that to our listeners, something if they want to get better at something? A podcast, book?
Yeah. If they want, a personal tip to get better at something, I would say, is to figure out which ways you like to learn best. You know, it used to just be crack open a textbook and read, but nowadays there's so many forms of media that are all have a high educational value. For some people, it's watching YouTube videos of someone explaining something. For other people, it's podcasts, you know, something they can listen to on their commute. For other people, they like to have a physical thing in their book or physical book in their hands. Everyone has a different way of that they prefer to consume media. And I just say, make it easy for yourself. Find something that you're naturally going to enjoy and just embrace it and stick with it and commit to it. Try to do a little each day and make it a priority, because the time will pass. And if you don't do a little bit each day, before you know it, 5-10 years down the line, you could have already been done. And had you not started.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And that's true. My wife getting her master's in her late 40s, she's like, it's so, because her undergrad was, the only option was a book or printed out notes or syllabus. And now everything's online. So she prints a lot of stuff because it's a challenge for her. Even though she's worked on computers, she's like, I still need the paper to read through some of this stuff. And so she had to go through a pretty big learning curve. It had been 20 years, 25 years since she had a formal class, and then to start doing this. So it's been interesting to see. And that was kind of eye-opening for me when we took my oldest down for her undergrad. It's like, well, what about books? Like, you don't get books. You can go check. I think she can get some of them from the library temporary, but there's not a bookstore to go. Like, you don't go spend $200 or $400 on books and then sell them back for like $50 at the end of the semester.
Yeah, that was a rite of passage.
Yes, or get a free T-shirt for trading your books in or something. It's great. Yeah, so just the whole mindset that my oldest, I mean, she likes literature too. She's taken some literature classes and has a few actual books, but very few books at all for her now. It's mind blowing. So what in your journey, what has been one of your biggest challenges?
Oh, that's another great question, Nick. They say my father-in-law's got a saying. I think he says, "Happy and wise is the man that does what he does what he loves and loves what he does." Something along those lines. Right. And, I'm sure you've heard the mantra, you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. I find that work is work, no matter what. You can love it and you can not love it, but it still requires effort, even if you enjoy it. And one of the big challenges for me is the concept of delayed gratification, right? A lot of my journey has been work hard now so you can reap the benefits later, right? Everybody knows this, the concept, you reap what you sow, being patient, waiting for the harvest. I have tried very hard to be purposeful about enjoying the journey. Especially once whether you have kids or whatever, your youth passes very quickly, and your kids grow up, and before you know it, the time is gone. And it's one of those things, if you didn't take the time to savor those moments, to go on that extra trip, to spend a little extra money, to do the things that bring those memories that'll help give you your drive to keep going, you might look forward in 20, 30 years or being at your retirement bed and kind of wonder, where did all the time go and why did I spend so much time with this? Last week I was at the hospital. I'm kind of going through different services, but I was working on palliative care with several people that were at the end of their life. And, they were dying in the hospital, and we were there with them at the end. And so, we had everybody just from your average people to university professors to even several doctors that were passing away in the hospital. And it really was a reflection opportunity to think about, this is the common denominator. We all reach this road at the end. And no matter what you've done, no matter what you've accomplished, and the thought of when I get there, what is going to matter the most, and seeing what mattered the most to these people were the relationships they had, that they had developed. And, those were the things that they really, the most common thing people wanted at the end is they crying out for their mother, right? As really eye-opening. So it makes me really appreciate the time that we have, the bonds that we share, spending the time with those relationships and those memories that are really going to be the things that bring us satisfaction in the long term. That's something I've tried to balance investing in my career versus investing in my personal life and my personal relationships, and trying to make sure I don't skew myself one way, too much one way or the other.
No, good stuff. And you talked about your kids and having those. I read a book not too long ago talks about 18 summers that you get with your children, and be sure to use them, because they'll find, I've got an 18 and a 20-year-old, so it zips by. And really, you've got about 16 summers, because when they start hitting that 17th and 18th year, they've got so much going on that they're on the go a lot of the time. Like my middle daughter's on a mission trip right now, and she was on a church camp trip the week before, and then she's doing a late trip with some friends, and it's 2 weeks she's off to college. So this summer's zipping by, and she's been on the go the whole time. So yeah, definitely enjoy those moments and make them special.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up the interview, Jonny, do you have any exciting plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months?
I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to highlight some of the research I do. I do a lot of research in addition to taking care of patients. I wear my clinician hat by day and my researcher hat by night. I'm doing a lot of exciting work in the cancer domain, specifically with brain cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer. I am presenting some of my work at some national meetings later this year in Boston, the American Society for Radiation Oncology national meeting. And so I'm always in that space, and I'm happy to say that we're pushing the needle forward and trying to make these, trying to end these cancers and try to do the best we can by people to give them the best quality of life that we can. So really appreciate you having me on, Nic. It's been a wonderful chat with you.
Hey, enjoyed it and glad having you on. So thank you so much for sharing tips and insights with our listeners. If people would like to get in touch with you, connect with you in any way, what's the best way for them to do that?
We can share my LinkedIn profile. I'm pretty active on there, as well as on X. Those are kind of my two social media platforms that I utilize the most often.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you, Jonny. And everyone, thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. Keep tuning back in.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.